All right, happy Monday, class. It is April 10th, and as I catch up on feedback from the weeks that I was out on leave, I returned activity 4 with grades and feedback. I may have had one resubmit, so I'll get that back as soon as possible. And pretty much at that point, just about all the activity assignments should be graded. So if you don't see any of them returned to you, the next day or so, follow up with me, but I think all the grades should be in at that point. So this video is going to be feedback on forum number 3. So I read everyone's forum posts for groups 1, 2, and 4. Dr. Spagnola will be providing feedback and grades, feedback if necessary, and grades on group 3 by the end of this week. So I'm going to tackle this sort of from a larger, 30,000 foot view type of thing rather than respond to each individual person. I did respond to a couple people just to clear up some misconceptions, and if you'd like to respond to me, that's fine. I think I was only like 2 or 3 people. So let's get into it. So the question this week, let me just read it. The transition to the CSS model among supported housing providers presents some challenges as well as some opportunities for both the people receiving services and the practitioners providing them. Give one reason why the transition to CSS will benefit people in recovery, one reason why the services may be hindered. In addition, one reason why the transition to CSS will benefit the practitioner and the agency, and then one issue why one problem that the transition presents. All right, so we will do this. There's basically 4 things that we need to attack here. Positives for the people in recovery, drawbacks for people, and then positives for the practitioners and the agency, and then drawbacks. So let's handle positives for the people. So these were fairly straightforward. So some people discussed providers having more education about psych rehab related services impacts the people receiving services, that they'll get basically better quality services. It was also a positive because the goals are going to be based on people's preferences. So there will be, in agencies where this had been an issue, probably not so many of your internship placements, but other agencies that may claim to do psych rehab but actually are in the habit of telling people what their goals should be. There's going to be less of that. There's a heavy promotion of community integration as well as independent living. And overall, it's just a more voluntary system. So there is less in terms of ability to use like coercion, and there's more of a division between the residential sector and sort of the services sector. So the people that had done a good job sort of highlighting those points, Melissa, Ashley, Megan, and Amira, really did a good job kind of providing some of the overall points. I'm not going to single out everybody, just a couple of people I just noted for some good answers. Some drawbacks. So services overall may decline in the amount of that people are providing, which may end up leading the person to move. So this was one of the major things that I think people discussed, but I didn't know if everybody had it quite right. So I'm going to run down the rest of them, and then I'll talk about this point in summary. But addressing the issues that people want or the people that the program is designed for may end up in less services because people may not be a good fit for the current program that they're associated with. Sometimes if people just might not be ready to take rehabilitation steps, because they may lack some of the skills that they should have gotten prior to entering that program, or they just might find themselves a little fearful. Independence is scary, and the types of needs that people have in the current programs that they're in may not be billable for the program that is providing the services. So, in summary, people talked about how if the person does not have a goal, that they're going to not get services, and that if they don't accept the services, they may not, that the agency is not going to be able to maintain their current levels of funding, and the agency will suffer. So some kind of negative outcome will probably end up happening. So really who this is going to impact are people that have, I'm thinking of, supported housing programs where people have been in their apartments for very long periods of time and been very stable and really haven't needed many services. And many of them have a goal on their recovery plans currently of something like, I will continue to live in the community with minimal supports or something like that. And now they will be forced to kind of work with the practitioners in order to receive services on goals that are more directly related to the services that that agency provides. So the person may have, other needs that may not relate to some of their more direct needs that people can provide them with, say, like transportation services. And if they've been relying on staff primarily for that and not much else in the way of rehabilitation, those are the people that are going to struggle, because in that case, the program model, if it's a supportive housing program, really doesn't fit the person's needs, which are more primarily transportation based. So that's who's going to be impacted. People that are in the program and have a goal that fits the program and fits the types of services that CSS will be able to bill for, then everybody in that situation should be fine. Let's move on to the practitioners. So some of the positives, just to note, there was one person in particular that had a good answer at Nilla. Good job describing some of the drawbacks. I know there were some of the others that had given that feedback. Positives for the practitioners, better training. So, Anthony, who was the lecturer that week, is one of the trainers providing CSS training to the supported housing programs all across New Jersey. And as such, the consistency across programs should be better. That if somebody is in one supported housing program and switches to another, whether this be a person receiving services or an employee of what said program, that there's going to be a very similar approach in the new program and similar way of service delivery. And that will come about because of training and because of these regulations. And these regulations do very closely mirror the alliance, and they ally with the psych rehab goals, values, and principles, specifically the ones of community integration and independent living. And the services that people will be expected to provide have been demonstrated to provide positive outcomes in the past. So people can sort of rest assured that they're not doing something that really doesn't shown to be very effective. So good job on some of the students that highlighted those things. And then lastly, some of the drawbacks for the practitioners. So if people are not getting the services that CSS provides because they don't want them or they're really not a good fit, this could long-term lead to decreased levels of people less people getting services. Maybe they either don't qualify or because they don't qualify because their service needs don't fit the model of the program. People talked about, Ashley in particular, issues of readiness. And it's the idea of pursuing goals may seem a little bit overwhelming, and so sometimes it's more of I'm getting ready to pursue goals, and there may be issues with billable services related to that. In general, doing this thing, all of the different documentation that relates to it is time consuming and difficult. You need good training in this stuff. The other thing that somebody had pointed out, I'm sorry I didn't write your initials down, but this was a good point, is that if CSS proves to be successful, this is going to lead to increased independence for people and less reliance on the supported housing programs, which is going to potentially, hopefully, I guess long-term in terms of recovery, lead to increased turnover amongst people getting services. So people won't stay in long-term supported housing programs if they don't need to as long. But that is time consuming for the practitioners to deal with, filling those spots. A lot of times those people that have been in those programs for long periods of times without a heavy service need are great people that agencies don't want to lose. They love working with them. They are, they balance out some of the more challenging cases on their caseload. So people are going to be reluctantly giving these up if they do not find a fit, and the turning over of it will lead to more of a need for practitioners to kind of be on point with their documentation, work efficiently, and manage their time well. So any questions, hit me up either by email or in the forums. Take care.